Hi there guys, so we're coming back off the 2019 World Cup in Japan, which was a massive success. They went to a new place, it raised record amounts of revenue, the viewing figures on TV were amazing, especially in Japan itself, and the stadiums were full and the games were exciting. So there's no doubt that Japan 2019 was a massive success. However, where should it go in 2027? Now, the next World Cup is going to be in France, 2023. That's almost a guaranteed win for World Rugby. Loads of stadiums, loads of interest locally. You know, it's going to be a really good money spinner, which at the end of the day is important for World Rugby. But where should it go after that? And that's what I've been thinking about, and that's what I want to talk about today. So, interest. Who is interested in hosting 2027? Well, Argentina, Australia and Russia are ones I know are definitely said they are interested, and maybe USA and South Africa as well. So, what do you look for? What does World Rugby look for in a host country? Well, obviously they've got to have stadiums. They've got to have infrastructure. They've got to have good internal travel, hotel space, all those sorts of things where they can actually physically host the World Cup effectively. Now, Ireland had put together a very good bid to host in 2023. Unfortunately, they lost out, and I think it was on some of those criteria there. It was quite a sad story. Brian O'Driscoll and others had got together and really pushed the bid. They thought they had a chance, but they lost out to France, maybe because France was seen as a more dead cert possibly, and it would be good to see Ireland bid again at some point and it be taken there, even if it didn't make quite as much money as elsewhere. But that's something to discuss in the comments below. Anyway, so you could also look at things like ticket sales. Are they going to fill stadiums even if they have them? Is it marketable? Is the place they have marketable? Do fans want to travel there? And in Japan, clearly the answer was yes. And also you've got to think about spreading the game. Sure, you take it to places like France, England, sometimes because you know it's a dead cert, but you've got to spread the game. And it's another reason why taking the World Cup to Japan was such a big win. And is the local population really that interested, or is it still quite a niche sport? So loads of things to think about. There's plenty of others as well. Let's talk about Argentina. Now, some of the pros, they're a tier 1 country. They've been to semi-final of the World Cup. They've been right at the top of the game, you know, in that top tier of the game for quite a long time now, established in the Rugby Championship and put some really good performances in there. Plus all the historical fantastic performances from previous World Cups. It just seems like maybe it's their time. And they've hosted events before. They've hosted Junior World Cups, Big World 7 Series. They've got lots of big stadiums from their football. Obviously, it's a football-mad country, so they have that infrastructure. It looks like that could be a place to go that's new but not new, that really deserves, you know, a visit. Australia, they're interested, or they were interested, and they've done it before, but not that recently. 2003 was the last time it's in Australia, and it seems to tick all the boxes in many ways. There's loads of interest in Australia. They're a sports-mad nation. They have got the stadia to do it. Could it go somewhere new? Possibly, but they'll do a good job, and maybe they're due a shot soon. Now, Russia's an interesting one. They would be a brand new host for sure, and in the idea of spreading rugby, Russia would work, of course. And they've got the stadiums, and there is the money in the country if they want to invest in a big event, and Russia has been keen on hosting big world events recently. But is the interest in the country really there? And more importantly, is their national team going to be of a good enough standard to compete, maybe even get a win? Because, you know, if they get knocked out early, then maybe their interest, the country's interest in the competition could wane, and that could be a bit of a downer. So that's a negative there possibly. South Africa are a major potential to host the Rugby World Cup. They haven't hosted since '95. They're a major rugby nation. They're the current world champions. There's a buzz about South African rugby, and they've done these things before. They've hosted big events like the Football World Cup, and they show they can do it. They've got the stadiums, they've got the infrastructure, and they've got the local interest. It would be buzzing. So that would be a good place to take it. Now, lastly, let's talk about the USA. People have talked about the USA being a major rugby nation for a while. And indeed, I always thought the USA might do okay at this World Cup. And it proved that they were actually quite disappointing in their performances, and they were very disappointed in themselves. So first of all, the downer there is, will the national team be good enough to host come 2027? I don't know. Maybe it should be left a little bit longer. On the positive side, they do have a lot of big stadiums. There's a lot of money there. You know, you could definitely make a decent income from a World Cup in the USA, and it's a new place to spread the game, of course. But because it's so big, there would be a lot of travelling involved. If you wanted to spread it across the whole of the USA, teams could be based thousands of miles apart, and it could be a real pain in the backside to get from place to place potentially. Anyway, but it is a desirable place for fans to travel. There are plenty of positives and negatives in that bid. So who would you choose for the next World Cup? I would probably give it to Argentina first, I think, just because probably they're due it. They really deserve it. They've given a lot to the world game. They've played fantastically well. There's a lot of interest in the country. They do have the stadia from their football, like I mentioned. It would work. It might not be the biggest money spinner, but I think after England, then Japan making lots of money, I think they can afford to go somewhere that might not make quite as much. Maybe fans won't travel there quite as much as well, but I'd still think it would be a fantastic World Cup, well supported by the locals. Then after that, 2031, I suggest to go to South Africa before going somewhere new again. I really think South Africa deserve it, like I mentioned, plus it'd be a guaranteed really good World Cup. Then maybe go to somewhere like the USA or Ireland after that, and spread the game a bit further. Give USA, if it is them, a bit more time to get their national setup going, to get players through the collegiate system and really start producing players, as hopefully by then their professional league will have been well established. Okay, tell me who you think should be 2027, 2031. But just before I go, a couple of other left field ideas I'd had. Who should host in the future? And I really like this one. How about Australia and the Pacific Islands? Now, the majority of games would be in Australia. They've got the stadia. It would be a surefire hit in Australia, like I've mentioned. But what a chance to take it to the Pacific Islands as well. My suggestion is, and I know there's loads of logistical problems here, have Fiji based in Fiji, in Suva. Have Samoa based in Samoa, Tonga based in Tonga. World Rugby would have to invest in improving stadia. There'd be a lot of temporary stands, etc. But have some of those pool games in their home countries. Fiji playing pool games in Fiji would be amazing. They'd have to think of ticketing to let locals watch. They would take a hit financially, but I think it would be worth it. And those outside investors looking in may well get involved in Pacific Island rugby, and maybe that's how you could get a professional team there. Anyway, that would be awesome. The bulk of the games in Australia, maybe the knockouts in Australia, but I think that could work. The other ones, Italy by itself, could definitely work. They've been around on the world scene for a while now, got loads of football stadia, rich country, good tourist destination. That could work. Or even an overall European bid of Tier 2 European countries like Georgia, Romania, getting together maybe, burying their differences and hosting a World Cup across Europe with the good travel links to try and whiz between the places. Anyway guys, those are my thoughts. Who should host the World Cup in 2027 and who should be after that, and any other strange and wonderful ideas for other hosts. Anyway guys, enjoy that one. Until next time, I will see you then.